morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and we are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. I'm so glad that you've joined us this morning. We have a lot to cover. Let's get right to it. We're going to start with some viewer comments from over the weekend. I hope that you had a nice weekend. It's chilly this morning. Keep that in mind on your way into school or your way into work. First up, good morning. Well, good morning. While listening to the unbiased Fox Live News, it occurred to me that President Trump treats us as if we, his constituents, are members of the boardroom, unlike any previous administrations. His transparency is heretofore unknown. May America continue to support him, his leadership, his agenda, his administration, and so on. Thank you very much. There is a point to be had there. With the transparency, he is keeping us updated on everything. Did you see him at the U.S. Open? We'll talk about that in just a little bit. Mark writes in, good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Mark. Mamadani hit the $8 million campaign mark, and Bernie Sanders and AOC are at his campaign rally. Yeah, Bernie Sanders is, well, I guess you could say outraged that Democrat leadership has not endorsed Mamadani, but I'll continue with what Mark had to say. And RFK Jr.'s family says he should resign. They say he is a threat to Americans' health. I have that story. We'll be getting to that a little bit later on. I appreciate that, Mark. And finally, a big wave all the way from Munich. There we go, Oktoberfest. What looks like a building behind the sign is a small tent. The bigger tents are farther in, but it's closed to the public until the grand opening on the 20th. So thank you to Brian for sending that in all the way. Oh, let's add that wave on there. All the way in. I gotta get that. I was just looking at my map. I've got to get taxed, but I appreciate that. A big Munich wave. All right, Bills yesterday. What do you think? They stunned the Ravens with a dramatic walk-off field goal after a massive fourth quarter comeback. The final score, 41-40, which goes to show you how amazing the Vegas odds makers are, because I think the Bills were giving 1.5. So if you took the Bills giving 1.5, you lost. The Bills outscored the Ravens 22-6 in the fourth quarter, and everything started turning the home team's way at Highmark Stadium when Derrick Henry, who had a stellar night otherwise, fumbled with 3 minutes and 10 seconds left in the fourth quarter while Baltimore held a 40-32 lead. After Buffalo's fumble recovery, Allen found Jackson Hayes to set up the Bills on the goal line, and he leaped over his offensive line to make it a 2-point game. The Bills, trying its third 2-point conversion of the game, were unsuccessful for the third straight time. The Ravens, who couldn't be stopped in offense in the first three quarters of the game, still controlled their own destiny if Lamar Jackson and company could get a first down. But the Bills, riding all of their momentum, forced a 3-and-out, and Allen took advantage. So there you go. I know many of you watching the games yesterday and the first full weekend of football. Now, I wanted to mention this because we talk about how important it is to know who you're voting for at every level, but at the local level. And often we have stories like we had Tiffany Henyard, the super mayor, and showing you examples of maybe people not doing the research they should have done. This could be an example of that. A disabled Vietnam vet is fighting a new war, this time against his small town government. Again, why is it so important to know who you're voting for? Leonard Amakola, who has lived in the Westchester County village of, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right, but Croton-on-Hudson, for 67 years, said he'll battle local officials to keep his, quote, "Trump is my president" banner flying, claiming he has a constitutional right to express support for the commander-in-chief. Amakola, who said he's had a Trump flag or banner up since 2021, said he's already had to deal with a backlash from local residents who have hurled rocks and even stolen his flags and banners. I did at one time have it on a pole, and one night somebody came and took it, and it was gone. So that, I think, is why I decided to put it up there, which is they can't get to it. So he has it in an area that is very much impossible for someone to steal. At issue is a long-standing prohibition on banners that Village Mayor Brian Pugh said makes Amicola's display a, quote, straightforward code enforcement matter, not a free speech issue. Pew told News 12 that law has at least 17 other local properties. Excuse me, let me reword that. Pew told News 12 that law has at least 17 other local properties have been cited for violations, not just the veteran and Trump supporter. Amicola disagrees and has even hired a lawyer to keep his banner flying. We believe that the village's enforcement action is unfair, that it targets the content of his speech, that simply the display, said his attorney, Roseanne Schuyler. We feel that his actions are protected under the First Amendment. She said Amicola will plead not guilty and continue to fight the citation, and said it may be a matter we need to bring to a federal court. Ironically, the village backed the vet with a different kind of banner in the past, putting him up on one of the Hometown Heroes banners. In 2023, Amicola was among a host of Croton residents tapped by the local government to take part in the Veterans Banner Program, which was designed to honor village residents who have served in the armed forces. The officials said at the time, the banner will serve as a reminder throughout the year of their courage and sacrifice for all our residents of our village, state, and country. The banner hails Amicola as a hometown hero. Now he is fighting City Hall, or in this case, Village Hall, to keep his Trump is my president banner flying. So we'll keep you updated if we hear anything more on that. But just an example of why it's important to know who you vote for, to know their positions on something as simple as what is being deemed a free speech issue. So did you see Trump yesterday at the U.S. Open? Depending on what outlet you go to, it was booed. He was booed. And people were mad because of long security lines. President Trump was loudly booed at the men's final of the U.S. Open on Sunday, where extra security caused by his visit led to lines long enough that many people missed the start of play, even after organizers delayed it. Wearing a suit and a long red tie, Trump briefly emerged from his suite about 45 minutes before the match started and heard a mix of boos and cheers from the Arthur Ashe Stadium. Well, there's the cheers. Why didn't that not come up in the first paragraph? No announcement preceded his appearance, and it was brief enough that some of the crowd missed it. Trump appeared again to more boos before the national anthem. Standing in salute, the president was shown briefly on the arena's big screens during the anthem and offered a smirk that briefly made the boos louder. When the anthem was over, the Republican pointed to a small group of supporters seated nearby, then sat on the suite's balcony to watch the match intently. I think he was there with who did I see? Pam Bondi. Trump was shown on the big screen again after the first set ended and elicited a roar of louder boos and some piercing whistles. He raised his left fist in a salute as the noise continued in the stadium, which with a capacity of 24,000 is one of the largest in tennis. I understand that the delay, I understand weirdly enough, I think Bruce Springsteen, who obviously has made it pretty clear he does not like the president, he was in attendance. We don't have to go. This whole article is back and forth of how many times he got booed or he got cheered. The Secret Service issued a statement saying that the protecting Trump required a comprehensive effort and noting that it may have contributed to delays for attendees. We sincerely thank every fan for their patience and understanding. Trump attending the final as a guest of Rolex, despite imposing steep tariffs on the Swiss watchmaker's home country. The U.S. Tennis Association also tried to limit negative reaction to Trump's attendance being shown on ABC's national telecast, saying in a statement before play began, quote, "We regularly ask our broadcasters to refrain from showcasing off-court disruptions." The reaction to Trump didn't ultimately constitute big disruptions, though. So there you are. We know that Trump, a sports fan, attending many games. And again, like depending on where you go, Trump makes historic trip to U.S. Open received with cheers. Trump was greeted with cheers upon arriving at the men's championship match. He was joined by Susie Wiles, Scott Bessent, Carolyn Levitt, Pam Bondi, and Jared Kushner. The administration's rapid response blasted fake news losers after a White House pool report from the Independent's John Bowden stated Trump was merely booed when he was shown during the Star-Spangled Banner and omitted that he was cheered too. Sergeant Major Carol Loy stepped out and began the anthem at 2:31 p.m. Trump's face appeared on the big screen at 2:32, promoting a wave of boos during the anthem. So the rapid response team saying all these fake news losers do is lie because their pea-sized brains have been irreversibly destroyed by TDS. This is how it aired on TV. Note the cheers. But a lot of celebrities, VIPs, delayed. Cars can't get into parking lots and people are walking miles. Even celebs were having to wait like normies. One source told Page 6 exclusively. The source added that security has stopped entry to so many ways. Catherine Zeta-Jones, Michael Douglas, and Ben Stiller were spotted waiting in line like everyone else. Deborah Messing sat in a car for an hour and they wouldn't let her out. Lindsay Lohan was also spotted traipsing in the parking lots. Stiller eventually got to his seat along with other celebrities, including Mindy Kaling, Bruce Springsteen, BJ Novak, and Sting, to watch the match. There you go. All right. We're going to give you an update on some crime issues, not just what's happening in Chicago over the weekend. President Trump signaling, and it's being reported by CNN, that federal immigration raids are planned for Chicago and other sanctuary cities in the next coming days. We'll be talking about that, but also an update on a couple of crime-related stories. So let's take a break. I don't want to run too late. Oh, we do have a lot on energy this morning that we're going to get to as well. Both Congressman Nick Langworthy and Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski releasing press releases on the green energy programs coming out of Albany and Governor Hochul's office, so we'll be talking about that as well. We're just getting warmed up on this Monday morning edition. We need to be warmed up. As cold as it is out there, it sure feels like fall. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Steuben County Office for the Aging will be hosting a public hearing on Thursday, September 18th at First Presbyterian Church in Bath. This hearing is to review the 2026 annual implementation plan for the Older Americans Act and the Steuben County Office for the Aging. This public hearing will take place at 9 a.m. on Thursday, September 18th in the Fellowship Hall of the First Presbyterian Church in Bath. Copies of the plan will be available at the Office for the Aging.
This is the Collector Consumer Alert. Hi, my name is Jared Johnson with SueTheCollector.com. Did you know that repossessions are on the rise in America? If your car, truck, or motorcycle has been repossessed by an agent that broke a lock, assaulted you, or trespassed on your private property, you have rights. Call us for a free case review at 1-877-BAD-REPO. You pay nothing unless we win money for you. Call me now.
We've had many wonderful memories as a family. Dropping Shelly off at school, I prayed he wouldn't get stuffed in a gym bag. Missy might have been the one in Little League.
I'm asking the Lord to watch over my little girl.
Well, while you're at it, ask him for a win. I got money on this.
But Georgie is the one who threw us the real curveball.
I got a girl pregnant.
Oh, no. Are you kidding me? We may not be perfect, but to me, we have the perfect family.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Check out our newsreels and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/.
An almost eerie-looking Marcus Street this morning. Our view brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Ken wrote in a quick overview of Sunday's Meet the Depressed, and this week with George Snuffleupagus and Deface the Nation. Trump is ruining the economy. Trump is increasing taxes on the people with illegal tariffs. Trump is murdering unknown people in the ocean with no proof that they were trafficking drugs. Oh, so they did start using that talking point. We knew it at the time when we saw articles saying that they did not see 11 individuals in that video nor any type of supply of drugs, but I'll continue. Trump is more worried about renovating the White House than helping the American people. I saw that coverage. Trump is taking over the country by military force. Trump is on track to shut the country down. Trump is bad, and the polls show that the people are against him. On This Week with George Stephanopoulos, I was impressed by Reince Priebus. He really took the truth to Stephanopoulos, Christie, and the woman Hillary called a brain-dead buffalo, Donna Brazile. Such a shame that Democrats and legacy media are working against the country and every day working hard to propagandize the sheeple into believing the lies they put forth. The lies that the American people get from our politicians will never stop as long as they continue to profit from their lies with no consequences. The people can't lie to Congress, but the politicians we elect can lie to us. Everyone, regardless of their political affiliation, should demand that the people we elect are required by law to tell us the truth, both when campaigning and when serving. Thank you, Ken. I appreciate that. Now, police have released the mugshots of the two 17-year-olds accused in the June shooting death of a Capitol Hill intern in Washington, D.C. The victim, 21-year-old University of Massachusetts Amherst student Eric Tarpanin Jackham, an intern for Representative Ron Estes, was fatally shot June 30th, about a mile from the White House. In July, the House held a moment of silence. Representative Estes called him a dedicated and thoughtful and kind person who loved our country. Attorney General Pam Bondi said the suspects will face severe justice if convicted, adding, "We hope this provides some measure of solace to his family." It remains unclear if Joaquin Lucas and Jalen Lucas are related. Officials have not confirmed whether Jacqueline Lewis has a prior criminal record. The MPD offers a standard $25,000 reward for information leading to a D.C. homicide conviction. In this case, the FBI's Washington field office has added $15,000 and the U.S. Marshals Service $10,000, raising the total reward for Jacqueline Lucas, who's still on the run, to $50,000. Now, there's also, I don't know if you saw this over the weekend, it's very graphic. I'm going to try to keep it as, I guess, clean as possible, but there's quite a bit of criticism of the liberal media, the mainstream media, and politicians who have been accused of staying silent on the savage murder of a young Ukrainian refugee on a North Carolina train after a career criminal with no less than 14 arrests was charged with her murder. Irina Zertuska, 23 years old, was stabbed to death on a light rail train in Charlotte, while horrifying surveillance footage showing the moment the unsuspecting young woman was brutally attacked. DeCarlos Brown, 35 years old, is allegedly shown pulling out a pocket knife and getting out of his seat behind her before the video cuts as he plunges the blade into her. Sartuska is totally unaware of the killer behind her, fiddling with her phone as Brown allegedly unfolds the knife and prepares to attack. After the killing, the attacker could be seen wandering through the train, spattering blood across the floor as he carries the weapon. Bystanders barely seem to notice that a young woman had just been hacked to death right behind them. The suspect takes off his hoodie and then calmly waits for the train to pull into the station before exiting the train. But in the wake of this monstrous killing, which took place on August the 22nd, mainstream outlets and politicians have largely stayed silent. Charlotte's Democrat mayor even thanked publications that chose to keep the video from the public, saying, quote, "The video of the heartbreaking attack that took Irina Zaruska's life is now public. I want to thank our media partners and community members who have chosen not to repost or share the footage out of respect for Irna's family." But her statement drew outrage from many, including Republican Congressman Brad Knott, saying the mayor's refusal to condemn senseless, horrific, and preventable violence is as telling as it is despicable. Violent criminals, regardless of who they are or what they look like, need to be in jail. As I said, 14 previous arrests. Mark Harris, a Republican representative, said the violence in Charlotte is a microcosm of a national epidemic. Americans deserve better than Democrats' soft on crime policies. Who's this now? Charlotte City Council candidate Edward Peacock said a week ago a 23-year-old Irina Zarutska was brutally killed on Charlotte's light rail. Her death is a tragedy we cannot ignore. Who's riding without paying? Are they the ones causing problems? We need answers. The former mayor of Matthews, North Carolina, a suburb of Charlotte, Said, I'm deeply disappointed in what has been happening and the loss of focus on making the light rail welcoming and safe to travelers. It's only going to get worse until the current Metropolitan Transit Commission and, quite frankly, the city of Charlotte gets serious addressing the root cause. Former Doge Secretary Elon Musk called out what he said was a lack of coverage of the killing by the mainstream media, resharing a post counting how many articles the outlet had written about the stabbing, along with the comment, 0. Such a sad story, and the establishment media, politicians, receiving much-deserved criticism for their lack of coverage of this. Ted Cruz, Elon Musk, the president of El Salvador were among those people who criticized outlets such as NPR, CNN, the New York Times, and PBS for having zero stories on this deadly stabbing. Cruz writing, the corporate media is fundamentally corrupt and dishonest. El Salvador's president saying you don't hate the media enough. Carrie Lake, the senior advisor of the U.S. Agency for Global Media, wrote, the mainstream media is disgusting. Shouldn't the left care about this? Ukraine, check. Immigrant, check. What's with the silence? This is a horrific story, and yet the media is ignoring it because they don't like the truth that it reveals. This has to change. The truth should be the guiding principle for all news outlets. Now, according to the Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department, Brown had multiple arrests dating back to 2011. The outlet noted that the court records show that Brown's record includes larceny, robbery with a dangerous weapon, and communicating threats. So this is just a larger picture of this soft on crime approach, this silence by the media. Trump snapped at a reporter on Sunday, speaking of violence, for scornfully asking if he intended to go to war with crime-ridden Chicago after he posted a meme Saturday warning that the Windy City will learn about the Department of War. NBC News White House correspondent Yamiche Alcindor, who had famous clashes with Trump during his first term, set him off by asking, are you trying to go to war with Chicago? Trump said, when you say that, darling, that's fake news. Alcindor attempted to interject, but Trump forcefully cut her off. Be quiet, listen. You don't listen, you never listen. That's why you're second rate. We're not going to war. We're going to clean up our cities. We're going to clean them up so they don't kill 5 people every weekend. That's not war. That's common sense. You never listen. That's why you're second rate. On Saturday, Trump needled Democrats in Chicago with a wild Apocalypse Now style meme on his Truth Social account that reads, I love the smell of deportations in the morning. Chicago's about to find out why it's called the Department of War. Yes, we're going to tell you some of the media's coverage of that and his meme really getting under their skin. Chicago vows to fight back against Trump's National Guard threat. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker and New York City mayoral frontrunner Zohran Mamdani issued fiery statements opposing Trump's escalating threats to deploy federal troops into the largely Democratic cities, a continuation of his weaponization of the government against his opponents, writes the Mirror. Mamdani, asked about the idea of National Guard troops being sent to New York City, cautioned that the potentially illegality of an act would not dissuade Trump from pursuing it. The first thing is we have to prepare for the inevitable of that deployment. We cannot try to convince ourselves that because something is illegal, Donald Trump will not do it. Pritzker called Trump a wannabe dictator. A rally and march formed in downtown Chicago Saturday evening against the increase in ICE operations, which were expected to begin that day. About 300 federal agents were using North Chicago's Naval Station Great Lakes as a logistical hub for their operations. While Trump has attributed the surge in immigration enforcement activities in Chicago and other blue cities to out-of-control dangerous criminals, his claims defy evidence, which show decreases in violent crime. So he has been masterful at this to make the media and Democrats almost look as if they're in support of crime. We see these horrific stories no matter where they are, Chicago, New York City, and specifically Chicago over Labor Day weekend. And we're told that crime is at a 30-year low. That seems to be the common refrain, or that it's at a recent low. Trump also suggested that Baltimore and New Orleans could get the same treatment, and on Friday even mentioned federal authorities possibly heading for Portland, Oregon to wipe them out, meaning protesters. He could have been mistakenly describing video from demonstrations in the city years ago. The president is threatening to go to war with American City, J.B. Pritzker wrote. This is not a joke. This is not normal. He added, Donald Trump isn't a strong man. He's a scared man. Illinois won't be intimidated by a wannabe dictator. Trump has suggested he has nearly limitless powers when it comes to deploying the National Guard. At times, he's even touched on questions about his being a dictator. We're going to give you a couple of updates on that, or what to expect. Wow, a lot of waves coming in this morning. I appreciate it. On this chilly, feels like a fall morning. A couple comments as well. Oh, very nice. Comment from a viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. For the first time since July 17th, mornings are bright again. No more wandering in the uninformed abyss. Thanks, Satellite TV Company. Thank you for all that you do. Well, thank you. Thanks for tuning in. Yes, I got the note over the weekend that we are back. It took some time, but we are back on DirecTV after kind of since July 17th, since really early summer or midsummer. So we do appreciate it. We're glad to have you back. If you're watching on Dish or any satellite, thank you. Thanks for watching. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this. Stay with us.
What better way to start or end every day than relaxing in your very own Hesselson's hot tub? Massage therapy, relaxation, stress reliever, pain management, soothing muscles, or just spending time with a loved one. Hot water therapy really does make every day better. Hesselson's has been a part of this great community for over 70 years, still being locally owned and operated. So make the drive to Hesselson's and start making your path to a better life today. And after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Did you know that children growing up with poor air quality have smaller lungs and higher rates of asthma than children that grow up with good air quality? And unfortunately, poor communities have poor air quality. IQ Air Foundation is working to change this. Today, the IQ Air Foundation provides filtration technology to schools with poor air quality through our Clean Air for Kids program. Our goal is to help over 50,000 school children every year breathe over 90% cleaner air indoors, helping to level the playing field, reduce barriers to learning, reduce sick days, and increase test scores. Mitigating poor air quality is key to environmental justice. Help Clean Air for Kids reach more children at IQAirFoundation.org.
Dante Brown, Big Fox.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. So whispers that federal immigration enforcement was imminent ricocheted across Chicago over the weekend as organizers postponed public events and advocates handed out flyers reminding people about their rights in the face of an immigration agent. By Sunday, White House border czar Tom Homan confirmed those plans for federal immigration agents to head to Chicago and other sanctuary cities this week, calling them problem areas. Following signals from the Trump administration that raids would surge, and after a weekend of fears gripped several states, you can expect action in most sanctuary cities across the country, Homan told Jake Tapper on State of the Union. Right? Yeah, is that the show that he does? Yeah, State of the Union. The announcement followed a massive immigration raid at a sprawling Hyundai manufacturing plant in southeast Georgia on Thursday, when hundreds were detained, many of them South Korean nationals. While it didn't take place in a sanctuary city, the raid was the largest sweep yet by the Trump administration and was a preview, Homan told CNN, of the more extensive enforcement to come. Chicago officials have been monitoring days of warnings that federal raids are near, and though the city braced for them over the weekend, the escalation landed farther east. The Department of Homeland Security announced a new federal immigration enforcement effort in Massachusetts focused on deporting criminals who entered the country illegally. A DHS spokesperson saying ICE launched Patriot 2.0 to target the worst of the worst criminal illegal aliens living in the state of Massachusetts following the success of Operation Patriot in May. The statement blamed Boston Democrat Mayor Michelle Wu for so-called sanctuary city policies that has said not only attract and harbor criminals, but also place the public safety threats above the interest of law-abiding American citizens. The Boston and planned Chicago operations are being modeled after the immigration arrests in L.A. in June that yielded a number of legal battles for the administration. Now, Tom Homan saying on State of the Union, he was asked, is President Trump planning to go to war in Chicago? Homan said, I think his words are being taken out of context. I say we're going to war with the criminal cartels. We're going to war with illegal aliens, public safety threats that rape children, that rape citizens, that committed armed robberies, that distribute narcotics that kill Americans. We're at war with the criminal cartels. Governor Pritzker protects criminal, illegal alien, public safety threats every day in that state, along with Mayor Johnson. We prove that. The first week of the administration, I went to Chicago. I started an operation where the first day we arrested 9 sexual predators. We arrested 9 members of the TDA. Several of those TDA members had a pistol, an illegal pistol with a switch on it, which makes that pistol fully automatic. We arrested 2 illegal aliens that got a homicide conviction. That was the first day in Chicago. So, President Trump and his administration, yeah, we're at war with the criminal cartels and those who want to murder and rape American citizens. You're darn right, though, Tom Homan did not say darn. Yes, the iconic war film image from Apocalypse Now, posting that on Truth Social with an AI-generated photo of himself as the role that Robert Duvall played in Apocalypse Now, rebranding it Shypocalypse Now. And writing, I love the smell of deportations in the morning. Chicago's about to find out why it's called the Department of War. Now, of course, from Apocalypse Now, the line is, I love the smell of napalm in the morning. It smells like victory. The Post brought a predictable response from Democrats and media critics. The Drudge Report, no longer a conservative media aggregator, led with the image and the headline, Trump Unhinged. J.D. Pritzker called the Trump Post not normal. President, who else? We had a couple other comments I thought I had here. CNN did a whole piece on it that we're going to get to here in just a moment. Mayor Johnson, despite his own threats of citizen violence against the Trump crackdown, appeared to try to take the higher road. Quote, the president's threats are beneath the honor of our nation. But the reality is that he wants to occupy our city and break our Constitution. We must defend our democracy from this authoritarianism by protecting each other and protecting Chicago from Donald Trump. Gavin Newsom said the president of the United States is deploying the military onto U.S. streets and using our troops like political pawns. Do not allow yourself to become numb to this. Tammy Duckworth called the president a draft dodger. Longtime Trump critic gets every bit of history wrong. Bill Kristol wrote fascism. David Axelrod saying he's trying to provoke a confrontation. Don't take the bait, Chicagoans. CNN doing a whole piece. Trump's Apocalypse Now threats conceal seeds of political weakness. This again, Stephen Collinson. President Trump has vowed to wield apocalyptic powers inside the United States, even as the adverse impact of some of his key policies is becoming clear. His weekend share of social media meme in which he threatened to wage war on Chicago was classic Trumpian tactics. It depicted him as a strongman, unafraid to impose force, and incited liberal outrage to delight his base. It is also laced with menace and implied lawlessness that reflects his view of the presidency as a tool of personal power rather than a constitutionally limited national trust. Still, beneath Trump's hyperbole, there are signs that his second administration, 8 months in, is entering a new phase. His frenetic pace and thunderclap tests of the Constitution have thus far had a disorienting impact. Courts struggle to keep up. Democrats flailed, mourning their election loss and trying to work out the basic business of learning to talk to Americans. Still don't have it, though, do they? But on the economy, public health, and foreign policy especially, Trump's policies are having impacts that risk political blowback. Democrat opposition is stirring through governors like Gavin Newsom, Pritzker, who are both looking for a fight to elevate their own political futures. The president had a terrible time in the courts last week with policy priorities at least temporarily disrupted. A landmark Supreme Court decision is pending on Trump's tariff policies that Scott Bessent said could be terrible if the government loses, since Trump would have to cut refund checks for half of the tariff revenue. The White House response to mounting challenges is to double down on more disruption and executive power grabs. It's the only way Trump knows. This again, Stephen Collinson from CNN. Its new front against drug cartels in the Caribbean underscores the point. U.S. forces last week blew up a speedboat off Venezuela, allegedly holding drug traffickers. Officials reacted to questions about the potential illegal use of force and destruction of due process with machismo. Quote, "We have the absolute and complete authority to conduct that," said Pete Hegseth. The administration claims the boat was run by TDA gang. It could be true, but presidents lack constitutional authority to wage war without informing Congress or the public. Vice President J.D. Vance upped the populist defiance by saying he didn't give a you-know-what after a Trump critic described the killing as a war crime. Rand Paul responded that it was despicable and thoughtless sentiment to glorify killing someone without a trial. Pundits often warn that events such as those off Venezuela are distractions from other Trump vulnerabilities. But there comes a point when the distraction threatens the Constitution as much as the original escapades. And when is a distraction simply distracting from another distraction? Anyway, that's the talking point, that he is using this to distract you. We do have some energy updates I want to get to. But where was the one? Well, I'm going to take a short break. There was one quote from, I can't remember, was it Newsom? Oh, there it is, Booker. Cory Booker. I knew it was one of the people that want to run for president. Now, Cory Booker, of course, famously speaking for 24 hours or 26 hours? I don't remember how long it was. But Cory Booker said, no, maybe it wasn't that long, but giving that long speech where he accomplished nothing. But host Kristen Welker said, I want to start off on some big news this week. President Trump launched a strike against a Venezuelan boat he alleges was carrying a large amount of drugs. Here's the video he posted. Overnight, the vice president dismissed those who called it a war crime. Senator Rand Paul said what a despicable and thoughtless sentiment it is to glorify killing someone without a trial. Senator, do you think that the president has the authority to unilaterally strike a boat carrying alleged drug smugglers? Cory Booker saying, no, he doesn't. It is a massive expansion of the presidential authority against the rules that abide by the use of military force. It's another example of Donald Trump breaking laws within the United States, giving no justification for his action. And that what we've heard so far is he might be relying on the 9/11 authorization for the use of military force. That is outrageous, and folks need to understand. As the president continues to expand his authority in a way that is very authoritarian, that we all should be concerned. The rule of law matters. And the form of government we have mandates a president will work within those bounds and does not just take those kinds of actions unilaterally. So another issue where it makes the media and those on the left look as if they are in support of crime and of drug smuggling. Michigan Senate candidate Mike Rogers, former representative and the Trump-endorsed Republican Senate candidate for Michigan, called President Trump to deploy the National Guard to Detroit to give these neighborhoods back to law-abiding citizens. Rogers, who announced his Senate campaign in April, said, what I basically said was, hey, Mr. Mayor, pick up the phone and call the president and request some backup. We're the second most violent city in the country behind Memphis. There's a lot of neighborhoods in Detroit that just aren't safe to be in. It's not fair to the people who are playing by the rules. You know, just because you're poor or at the lower middle class does not mean you have to put up with crime in this way, at least in my mind. So there you are. All right, when we come back, a little early in the week, but we're going to have a climate update, not from Climate Fact Friday, Bob, but from the New York Post editorial board, and that ties in with some local reactions to Albany's green policies, so we'll be talking about that. We do have some New York State issues. Governor Hochul receiving a little pushback on Frankie Focus. Frankie Focus is the mascot, I guess, to raise awareness of the bell-to-bell cell phone ban in schools. If you are on the ground, meaning you're a teacher or a parent, how has the cell phone ban been going? I'd love to hear how that, I am sure there's some people already breaking the rules a little bit, but I'd love to know how overall it's been going. You'll have to reach out if you have any insider info. All right, we got to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Your tap water is delicious.
I know, right? It's this Culligan Smart drinking water system.
What do you think is going on in there?
I'm smelling a touch of chlorine.
Yeah, I'm detecting some PFAS.
I'm also getting notes of lead.
Perfection.
Sending it up.
Here we go.
Certified to reduce more than 70 contaminants. It's like having your own team of water experts. See the smart difference at Culligan.com.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
In a few words. Urkel, glasses. Nerd. It pays to know your nerds. If you guys didn't get nerd with me sitting up here on this show, 25 words or less.
Weeknights at 5 and 5:30 on Big Fox.
The Big's website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call
Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. A comment from a viewer. How is it that many of the Trump detractors are supposedly well-educated lawyers, yet they have no idea what authorities the president has, or do they have a rudimentary understanding of the U.S. Constitution? Fair question. I've got a, there's so many attacks on Trump. It's, well, the Sunday shows have become essentially that kind of propaganda against Trump. When you have a man that is the most transparent president in history, yet they have to make up stories and controversies. It's quite frustrating to watch. But I wanted to mention this. Yet another, and I know we have Climate Fact Friday Bob. This is not from him, but I think he'll appreciate it. Yet another much predicted climate change catastrophe turns out to be baseless. Worldwide sea levels are not rising any faster than a century ago. This doesn't mean climate change isn't happening, nor that particular locales don't face a rising sea problem. But it does mean no apocalypse is coming unless the whole world takes drastic action to prevent it. For decades, complex climate change models have indicated global sea levels to be rising at twice or more the historic levels. But until now, no scientists had bothered checking that against actual observed reality. Dutch engineer Hessel Voortman and researcher Rob D. Vos finally did the work. Their peer-reviewed study in the Journal of Marine Science and Engineering, a global perspective on local sea level changes, shows the models have gotten it completely wrong. They reviewed actual data on an average of a century of observation at 150,000 coastal locations across the planet to determine that sea levels rise this century will likely be about 6 inches, the same as last century. The models from observations in the Atlantic only, plus a host of assumptions about how the oceans respond to rising global temperatures, suggest sea levels increase by 1 foot to 3 foot by 2100. Indeed, Princeton University's Michael Oppenheimer predicted in 2019 that sea levels would rise by more than 34 inches by century's end. The Dutch researchers' first ever global study of sea level rise refute those claims and raised a huge question of why no one else had bothered to test the predictions. As of 2020, they found the worldwide rise is only around 1.5 millimeters per year, far less than the 3 millimeters to 4 millimeters a year routinely reported in scientific literature and the general news media. For his own use as a hydraulic engineer working with flood protection and coastal infrastructure adaptation projects, Voortman 2 years ago checked actual data for the Netherlands and found it didn't match the global predictions. He was shocked to find no one else was checking the model's claims against observed reality and set out his own expense to do the global study. Don't expect the truth to set in fast. Climate Week later this month will surely blare the same old, now debunked warnings. After all, propagandists still keep telling everyone that climate change is producing a surge in extreme weather events, and the data just does not bear that out. Heck, they outright lie about the death of Great Barrier Reefs, too. All this supposedly to justify a rush to bring carbon emissions to net zero, which requires drastically less use of fossil fuels, and the story goes heavy reliance on wind and solar power. Yet such energy policies are insanely expensive, which is why nations like India and especially China keep building coal-fired electric plants even as they pay lip service to the need for change. Chasing net zero has helped zero out economic growth in Western Europe and slam consumers in New York, New Jersey, and other states. And we're going to have some examples of that probably in the next segment. The idea that human progress is making the planet uninhabitable scratched a deep ideological itch on the left, leaving most in the media and academia prone to eating up and amplifying all the predictions of apocalypse. And the need to stop the catastrophe requires huge state interventions in the economy, growing the power of government insiders and UN bureaucrats, giving them huge incentives to join the Sky is Falling Brigade. It also allows for huge payoffs to your friends in the name of saving the planet. Voortman and De Vos have done landmark work in debunking one of the most common claims about catastrophic man-made climate change. But with all the interest served by pushing that false narrative, they're far less likely to win a Nobel Prize than to be drowned by a rising tide of hate. Yes, they will now be attacked personally because of this. There is no doubt. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about energy and specifically Langworthy's Energy Choice Act. He was in Chautauqua County blasting Hochul's energy ban. We'll be talking about that, but we're running a little bit late. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
The Nissan Rogue takes hit after hit. Punished under immense pressure. And exposed to excessive wear. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. Now get 0% APR financing for 60 months on the 2025 Nissan Rogue, Pathfinder, or Murano.
You can just keep watching and scrolling, and the world will still feel like it's falling apart.
Widespread missile attacks. Highest hospitalization. Evacuation in the West.
Or you can take action by joining a movement that's creating real and lasting change instead. Partnering with communities around the globe to help uproot poverty and plant seeds of hope for a brighter tomorrow. Because at World Vision, we believe that no situation is hopeless. Join a movement that's changing the world for good.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. Comment from a viewer, which is perfect for this. Another example of the Democrat authoritarianism is manifest right here in New York State. The banning of natural gas. We're going to talk about that in just a second. Comment, once again, the subject of global warming must include a discussion of the ice ages. Thank you very much. And Mark writes in, no global warming here. It's pretty chilly this morning. It sure is. It's very chilly out there. Keep that in mind on your way into school, your way into work. Congressman Nick Langworthy hosted a press conference in Chautauqua County as part of his ongoing effort to highlight New York's looming natural gas ban and the urgent need for passage of his Energy Choice Act that is gaining momentum in Washington. We've talked about this Energy Choice Act. If you happen to be in the Hornell area and you heard my appearance on The Pulse with Mayor Buckley, this was our topic this week on WLEA. I hope that you were able to hear it. Excuse me. If not, you can find it on the website. I think it's WYSL's website that has the past episodes there. But Congressman Langworthy has been traveling across the 23rd Congressional District. We know Phil Palmisano has been doing similar, traveling all over the state, talking about the failed energy programs coming out of Albany. Well, Langworthy is doing it to educate homeowners and businesses about the state's natural gas ban that will take effect on new construction in 2026, and his legislation that will prohibit states like New York from imposing bans on energy sources like natural gas and propane. The bill continues to gain momentum in Congress, picking up 7 new bipartisan co-sponsors this week alone, meaning last week, bringing the total to 80 members from dozens of states across the nation. U.S. Senator Jim Justice is carrying the companion bill in the Senate. Prior to the press conference, Langworthy met with PPP Vice President Craig Shaffey, Chautauqua County Executive P.J. Wendell, Mary Gilstrap of IOGANY, the John Healy of Southern Tier Buildings Exchange to discuss their concerns with Governor Hochul's mass electrification mandates and the devastating impact it will have on the housing industry and overall economy. The congressman saying, I'm using every chance I get to warn people about what Governor Hochul and Albany Democrats are doing to our energy supply and how it is going to impact every single New Yorker. The governor already greenlit utility rate hikes, and this natural gas ban is going to drive your energy bills even higher, make our already unaffordable housing market even worse, and threaten access to reliable energy in our cold winter climate. My Energy Choice Act is the only way to stop this disastrous law from taking effect, and that's why it's gaining incredible bipartisan momentum from across the country. So thank you to Congressman Langworthy for spreading the news. We also have here a couple more things on that, but we got to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Frankly speaking, getting ready to wrap up. It's hard to believe. Hour number 1. Man, seems like I just went on the air, doesn't it? Stay with us.
This isn't your father's library. Create with the 3D printer. Release your inner audio engineer or sewing machine riddles, all with your library card. Go to getyourlibrarycard.com today.
This is a collector consumer alert. Hi, my name is Jared Johnson with SueTheCollector.com. Did you know that repossessions are on the rise in America? If your car, truck, or motorcycle has been repossessed by an agent that broke a lock, assaulted you, or trespassed on your private property, you have rights. Call us for a free case review at 1-877-BAD-REPO. You pay nothing unless we win money for you. Call me now.
There have always been a few, ready to fight and win. Since 1775, these few have been Marines, and they come from across this land to defend the future of our nation. This year, our Corps celebrates 250 years, and Marines are proud to serve this country, each other, and all that is still to come for America.
The best 2 hours of NFL coverage, starting with Fox NFL Kickoff at 11.
This is great TV.
It is caught! Then at noon, take it to the next level on Fox NFL Sunday.
This kid has it all.
Touchdown! America's #1 pregame show. The best NFL pregame shows are back to back.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. The editorial board says even if it takes a few more years, New York should not backtrack on climate change. That coming from the Buffalo News. I believe it was the Buffalo News. Yes, it was. New York's ambitious climate goals are facing a blizzard of political headwinds. Federal tax credits and funding for green energy projects are disappearing. Fossil fuel companies have spent millions on lobbying efforts to slow down legislation that would forward the state's Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act electrification policy. Those efforts seem to be bearing fruit. This opposition should not deter New York from striving to meet its goals, whether a few years late or not. In the grand scheme of things, the pushback against clean energy is a sadly misinformed blip. Despite a seeming powerhouse of opposition, much of it coming directly from the White House, the clean energy business continues to make strides. Why? It's simple. The industry makes strong economic sense. In New York, according to the data from the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, it's already employed 180,000 people, with buildings and transportation adding the most recent jobs. Anyway, I'm not going to go through all this. So saying, even though we're not going to make our goals, keep striving with more rules and regulations on you. We're going to, when we get to the next hour, I have one other thing on that. Sempolinsky, former congressman, current assemblyman, said the state energy plan is unaffordable. We're going to read you his clip. He's been on, not all of them, but he's been to some of the press conferences that Phil Papassano has been holding across the state. He's been making the rounds to try to basically scream from the rooftops how bad Governor Hochul's policies are when it comes to green energy and how destructive they'll be to you and I and to the state of New York. So he's been trying to spread the word. It's a difficult thing to do, obviously, as a Republican in a one-party rule Albany, to get the word out there, but he's doing a great job, and he's been getting a lot of coverage. When he returns from his world tour, if you will, we're going to have him on the program. We've just got to get a couple things finalized. He stopped in, was it Friday, to say hi and just tell me more about how they've been going. It was good to catch up for a moment, but we're going to have him on the program so he can update us on what he learned, what he's been saying, and it'll all be about energy. And I know that that's a major topic that we all like to hear Phil talk about because it is so important, and that's why we've asked him to come on again. Okay. The 11th annual Tri-County First Responder of the Year Award will be presented at the Patriot Day Remembrance Ceremony on Thursday, September 11th at 11 a.m. at the First Responder Honor Park on the corners of South Hamilton Street and Forest Drive in Gang Mills. The award recognizes exemplary performance by a first responder in protecting and preserving life, limb, and property. It can also recognize accomplishments over an extended period of dedicated service. The Tri-County First Responder Honor Park Committee has met and selected this year's recipient of the First Responder of the Year. This year, they would announce that Chief Glenn Vogel from the Campbell Fire Department, nominated by Assistant Chief Jeff Beers and Steuben County EMS Coordinator Brandon Rossetti. Chief Vogel has 40 years of service with the Campbell Fire Department and was a chief for 30 years. Glenn is also an EMS instructor for 35 years, teaching EMT, CFR, CPR, and First Aid to many students in the Tri-County area. There'll be a short ceremony and presentation to honor the recipient, where the complete nomination proclamation will be presented. The awards will be presented by the committee, and they're also anticipating Assemblyman Phil Palmisano, Senator Tom O'Mara, and Congressman Nick Langworthy or their representatives to attend to present proclamations, as well as Doug Cole, the Irwin Town Supervisor, and Kelly Fitzpatrick, the Steuben County Legislative Chairperson, will also be present. So I wanted to bring that to you to wrap up our number one. We'll keep highlighting that, but I don't want you to forget on Thursday. That's a very great event. So mark your calendar, 11 o'clock on Thursday. Hour number one in the books. Hour number two, mere moments away. Stay with us.
William Mittar has earned a reputation for being a straight shooter.
Because I am a straight shooter.
For being honest.
Here's what we're willing to pay.
Because I am honest.
For winning a lot.
Because we win a lot.
If you've been injured in a motor vehicle accident, it matters who you hire. It matters in the experience as well as the results. Call William Mittar. Visit WilliamMittar.com.
It's a season of sharing.
Having a good time has always been my number one goal. I tend to get crazy. At my age, I should not be jumping up and down like that. And if you don't know what I mean, ask your mama. The young ones, y'all like, we don't know what you're talking about. But I promise you, in 30 years, you will.
It's the best time in daytime.
weekdays at 2 p.m. on Big Fox.
Well, it's hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Market Street in Corning. I want to wrap up our discussion. We've covered a lot this morning. I want to wrap up our discussion on energy. Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski testifying before the State Energy Planning Board Wednesday. He said New Yorkers need a balanced, bipartisan approach to its energy future that keeps rates reasonable for New York families while protecting the environment instead of the one-size-fits-all approach favored by Governor Hochul and the Democrat majority. Albany's top-down approach to energy is another example of government overreach that ignores the realities families face in Western New York, said Sempolinski. We're tired of Albany politicians pushing costly mandates that make life harder and more expensive while doing little to nothing to actually help the environment. The one bright spot in the plan is that the state is moving toward embracing more nuclear. If you want unlimited carbon-free energy, nuclear is the way to go. Assemblyman Sempolinski joined Republican members of the Senate and Assembly to testify at the hearing. His colleague, Assemblyman Phil Palmisano, the ranking minority member of the Assembly Energy Committee, is leading the fight to bring common sense energy policies to Albany. Quote, as a member on the Environmental Conservation Committee, I know we can pursue energy policy in a way that is dependable and affordable. This plan is neither, said Sempolinski. I'm grateful to Assemblyman Palmisano for leading this effort to hold the majority accountable and to fight for a sensible energy future for our communities across New York. The New York State Energy Planning Board, chaired by New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, President and CEO Doreen Harris, is holding public hearings on the state's draft state energy plan. The energy plan will guide state energy policy for the next 15 years through the year 2040. Assemblyman Sempolinski has criticized New York's 2019 Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act as having goals that are unachievable and unaffordable. The CLCPA, signed into state law by former Governor Cuomo in 2019, requires New York to have 70% renewable electricity generation by 2030 and zero carbon emission electric system by 2040. Electric rates are rising as utility companies struggle to meet the mandates of the CLCPA. The CLCPA is also why New York is attempting to phase out the use of natural gas in homes and businesses, and why school districts across the state are being forced to purchase electric school buses, which are more expensive and less capable than similar diesel-powered school buses. Sempolinski saying, I'm not against protecting the environment, far from it, but the CLCPA is not responsible energy policy. It's virtue signaling disguised as energy policy. I'm going to keep speaking out and fight for common sense policies in Albany that protect folks in the 148th Assembly and across New York. So there we go. Thank you very much to Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski. We've got to have him back on the program. I haven't had him on in a little while. Not since around the county fair time. We'll have to have him on. So we appreciate all the work he's doing, all the work that Assemblyman Phil Palmisano is doing, also all the work that Congressman Nick Langworthy is doing. I meant to mention this earlier as we talk about local issues. I'm hoping you saw this by now, but Steuben County Sheriff Jim Allard reports that about 5 a.m. on September the 5th, the Steuben County SWAT team, in conjunction with the City of Corning Police Department, executed a search warrant on a resident on West 1st Street as part of the investigation into the recent bank robbery in Addison. We had not heard a lot on that. I remember I think I even put them up on the screen when it first happened. That happened on a Friday, and they had video of him or a picture of him in a blonde wig, if you recall. Well, we hadn't heard anything for quite some time. Now he has been arrested. Recovered in the search was an AR platform-type pellet rifle, a pellet pistol, a vehicle, cash, and phones. Arrested pursuant in the search was Dominic Bova, age 30, of West 1st Street. It is alleged that Mr. Bova robbed a financial institution, displaying what appeared to be a firearm in Addison on August the 22nd. Over the past 2 weeks, investigators have conducted dozens of interviews, processed over 100 tips, and recovered footage from multiple cameras to identify Mr. Bova as the alleged robber. Mr. Bova is charged with robbery in the first degree, a Class B felony, grand larceny in the third degree, a Class D felony, criminal coercion in the first degree, a Class D felony, and menacing in the second degree. Mr. Bova is being held for arraignment. Additional charges are expected. Sheriff Allard thanks all of the citizens who provided tips and videos, as well as the Village of Addison Police Department, City of Corning Police Department, New York State Police, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation for their assistance in this investigation. So if you missed that on Friday, preparing for the weekend, I wanted to pass that along because I know that's a story that we had for you when it originally happened. All right. Last Friday, we had a little fun with Frankie Focus. No, that's not my nickname. It's the mascot for the cell phone ban. Now remember, for whatever reason, the cell phone ban cost us, $13 million in the state budget. No one's really done a great job of explaining why it would cost $13 million. Remember, New York City School District said that still isn't enough. I mean, it seems like banning a cell phone is pretty cost-free, I would think. Well, some of the money may have went to Frankie Focus, the mascot, to raise awareness about the cell phone ban. Governor Hochul is refusing to disclose the cost of Frankie Focus, which was unveiled last week to promote the bell-to-bell school cell phone ban, a Sesame Street-type character that even supporters flunked as completely tone-deaf. So even supporters of Governor Hochul said it was tone-deaf. I don't know, did I show you a picture of Frankie Focus? I'll try to get that for you at some point on the program, because it's only, there it is. Okay. I'll try to get that up on the screen so you can see it. There we go. Let's see if we're doing this live on the air, shall we? And it didn't work. Perfect. All right. I guess we're not going to show you Frankie Focus. But anyway, the mascot is more appropriate to connect with 4- and 5-year-olds than the phone-obsessed teenagers the bell-to-bell prohibition is intended to help, said educators. It's completely tone-deaf, said Queens High School teacher Mose Spurn. We all agree that the cell phone ban would be great for students and learning. By having a silly cartoon character be the focus of the promotion loses the target audience, middle school and high school students. He added, having a cartoon character thrown in their face is not going to make them happy and insults their intelligence. Oof. The use of a mascot doesn't appeal to parents and certainly not high school students. It doesn't appeal to me, said high school parent Ye-In Chu. I'm not sure the mascot helps her cause. She said the ban, which she supports, is a serious issue. There's a lot of debate in high schools about students not having access to their laptops or phones that could be helpful during free study periods. The law is more successful than the mascot, said another proponent who requested anonymity. I don't know any 13 to 18-year-old who would be convinced with a mascot like that. Hochul showcased Frankie Focus at a Brooklyn middle school last week. Sources who backed the ban said former New York State Senator and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and her camp were in discussions with Hochul on implementing the cell phone ban. Hochul's office on Sunday would not explicitly say how much it's spending on Frankie Focus, other than the character is part of a state public service campaign to promote the benefits of distraction-free learning, and that has spent $13.5 million to help schools comply, including $4 million to the New York City Department of Education. So it's actually $13.5 million. It's being funded by public, not private funds, the spokesman said. That's in reference to Frankie Focus, not the $13.5 million. Hochul defended Frankie Focus, who has his own social media account, as a valuable promoter of the ban. Frankie just kind of showed up at our office last week, and I did this perfect double backflip, which was pretty wild, Hochul said. But after that, he made two things clear. He's not affiliated with any companies or brands, and he really, really doesn't like smartphone distractions at school. The Hochul representative said the furry mascot would help spread the word about how distraction-free learning helps students. As the governor always said, our kids succeed when they're learning and growing, not clicking and scrolling. That's why we're working. We're going to keep working to ensure distraction-free learning delivers the best results for New York schools. So we'll not disclose how much Frankie Focus. Some people speculated last week that maybe it's the lieutenant governor in the mascot outfit. That was suggested at one point. All right, we got to take a short break. I'll try to get a picture of Frankie Focus up there. We've got a couple quick things about New York State. We're going to continue on that. Then we have a couple updates on the Democrats in general, still struggling to get their message out there. We're also going to tell you what some of the talking heads said over the weekend on the Sunday shows. Yeah, a lot of criticism. I think it was, who was it that mentioned it earlier? But this idea that Trump is renovating some of the things in the White House. People are using that as a way to be upset with him. Not really sure the reasoning there, but we're going to talk about that as well. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
You don't have time to go to the gym? The health club is not an option? Come to Hesselson today and see why swim spas and fitness systems can fit into anyone's yard and budget. 12-foot, 14-foot, 15-foot, 18-foot dual temperature hot tub and swim spas are all on display in Hesselson's indoor and outdoor showroom. Try before you buy. 0% interest-free financing options are available on every Hesselson swim spa. Swim and exercise year-round and start making every day better. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
When you're on, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
This is a Sue the Collector consumer alert. Hi, my name is Jared Johnson with SueTheCollector.com. Did you know that repossessions are on the rise in America? If your car, truck, or motorcycle has been repossessed by an agent that broke a lock, assaulted you, or trespassed on your private property, you have rights. Call us for a free case review at 1-877-BAD-REPO. You pay nothing unless we win money for you. Call me now.
Livingston, Big Fox News, Southern Tier.
The Fox Sports app isn't just any sports app. It's your sports app.
For the touchdown!
Yeah, yours. Your teams. Your highlights. Your scores. Your stories. Just choose your favorites to get more of what you want.
To the end zone!
And of course, stream your teams live. The best part is free with your pay TV subscription.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back. Oops. We sure are. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. A couple of quick things. First of all, here we go. Let's hope. There you go. There's Frankie Focus, the mascot that everybody's talking about, that no one knows exactly how much it cost, and Hochul will not disclose. There is Frankie Focus for whatever it's worth. Okay. Also, I've got to show you this picture. This is so exciting. We've got a wave I mentioned earlier from Munich, Germany. Well, look, just to verify, there's Brian watching Frankly Speaking as we speak in Munich, Germany on his phone. So there is the proof. We are live. We're going to take Munich by storm. They're going to love us on Frankly Speaking. So thank you, Brian. I appreciate that great picture. Okay, lawmakers are demanding more answers after a growing evidence suggests that Governor Kathy Hochul's administration allegedly steered the contract for a massive $11 billion Medicaid home care program. A rep for Public Partnership LLC admitted in a letter sent to state senators investigating the disastrous transition process to the new firm that she falsely stated under oath last month that the company hadn't been in touch with state officials, even after she was presented with a copy of a draft piece of legislation with the company's name on it. Something here stinks, said State Senator Stephen Rhodes of Nassau. After the bombshell admission from PPL, a company hired to handle payment services in the revamped Consumer Directed Personal Assistance Program, or CDPAP. These families deserve to know the substance of those communications, who was involved, whether they influenced the bid drafting and selection process, and so on. Whether anyone in the Hochul administration or her donors benefited as a result. We want answers, and so should all New Yorkers. Patty Barnes, PPL's Vice President of Government Relations, has denied there were communications between the Department of Health and the company before the enactment of the budget, but admitted those statements were not accurate in a letter to senators provided to the New York Post. There were general communications with DOH staff, of which I was unaware at the time I testified, in late March and early April, when New York was considering the possibility of moving to a single F1 program. State Senate Investigative Committee Chair Jim Skoufis co-chaired the hearing last month with Health Committee Chair Gustavo Rivera and promised a follow-up. All these statements, all these amendments to testimony, all these comments now, since the hearing, only elicited more questions. The company has so far remained cooperative with the investigation, though subpoenas are not off the table, said Skoufis. Rivera said that there was still harm happening to patients and workers after a chaotic rollout of the changes, which consolidated hundreds of fiscal intermediaries that handled payroll services for home care aides to one handpicked by the state during backroom budget negotiations. Senator Skoufis and I are clear that PPL's handling of the transition has been unacceptable, and they will be taken to task to ensure that New Yorkers receive reliable home care from workers who are paid appropriately. The administration from PPL of ongoing discussions creates a big enough headache for the Hochul administration as it continues to handle fallout over the change, which sparked widespread outrage as hundreds of thousands of home care aides and their recipients face bureaucratic nightmares and missed paychecks as they transition to the new firm. During last month's hearing on CDPAP, Commissioner Jim McDonald had similarly denied under oath that he and DOH had been in touch with the firm prior to the bidding process. New York is a big state. You hear a lot of New York all the time. McDonald said, asked about the bid rigging accusation. My team did an honest request for proposals at an honest bid and did an honest evaluation, and they did a good job of this. We did what we were supposed to do. A spokesman for Hochul didn't respond to PPL's admission nor deny that her office was in touch with the company. The shift to a single fiscal intermediary went through a standard procurement process at DOH following the law passed by the state legislature. And no state officials knew who would be selected until the procurement process was complete, a spokesperson for the governor said. In a statement, a DOH spokesperson maintained the commissioner did not know his employees were communicating with PPL. As Commissioner McDonald testified before the Senate leaders, he was not aware of any communications between the Department of Health staff and PPL that occurred prior to the procurement process. Now, speaking of New York, we've got the mayor's race heating up. Bernie Sanders attacking his fellow Democrats for not endorsing Mamdani. Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont on Saturday assailed Democrat leaders for their refusal to support Zohran Mamdani in that mayor's race and called him the future, keep this in mind, the future of the Democratic Party. Now, that's what many are scared of, that the future is more of a socialist Democratic Party. Speaking at an evening town hall in Brooklyn, Sanders said the party's leaders, reluctant to back Mamdani after his decisive win, showed how deeply disconnected they had become from voters. He said that Democrats in New York should be jumping up and down to support Mr. Mamdani after excitement over his underdog campaign. So we've got another fight on our hands, and this is the future of the Democratic Party. Mr. Mamdani joined Sanders on the latest stop on his national fighting oligarchy tour, the town hall feeling like a passing of the torch from Mr. Sanders, who turns 84 on Monday, to a new generation of leaders like Mamdani and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Ms. Ocasio-Cortez met with Sanders and Mamdani earlier in the day and endorsed Mamdani as a state assemblyman during the primary. The trio are Democratic socialists and have tried to push the Democrat Party to the left, but Mamdani has also faced pressure to distance himself from the Democrat Socialists of America to appeal to a broader audience. Many Democrats in New York have not yet endorsed him, among them Governor Hochul, Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, the minority leaders in the House and Senate. Mr. Sanders said in an interview before the town hall that Democrat leaders were missing an opportunity. It's no great secret that they're way out of touch with grassroots Americans, with the working families of this country, not only in New York City, but all over the country. Mamdani's populist proposals, Sanders said, were not radical ideas. We're the richest country in the world, in the history of the world. There's no excuse for people not having affordable housing, good quality, affordable, decent transportation, free transportation. Mamdani praised the DSA, the Democrat Socialists of America, at the town hall, urging a mother who supported his universal child care plan to join the group when she asked how she could help. He also weighed in on a host of local issues, including expressing support for faculty members and protesters on college campuses who they word it as support Palestine, but he's saying he stands with the anti-Semitic, anti-Israel protests on college campuses and the people that protest, whether they're students or faculty. Elected officials have protested how 4 faculty members at Brooklyn College lost their job. No faculty member should be disciplined for supporting Palestinian human rights, Mamdani said. When asked about Trump's threat to send the National Guard to the city, he said, we have to prepare for the inevitability of that deployment. So anyway, a lot of pushback that he has not been endorsed by Hochul. He's not been endorsed by Hakeem Jeffries or Chuck Schumer. Actually, Chuck Schumer declined to comment on a piece about kind of the, I guess you could say, the restructuring of the Democrat Party. And that's kind of what we're having here with Bernie Sanders saying Mamdani is the future of the Democrat Party. But Andrew Cuomo said, extremism is our real enemy in American politics. He did an op-ed at the Daily News saying the upcoming mayoral election is the most consequential in modern history. It's not merely a choice between candidates, but between philosophies, progress versus regression. The first step in democracy's decline is polarization and the rise of extremist factions. That has already happened. The second comes when those factions gain disproportionate influence. The third and most dangerous occurs when extreme positions have become normalized. Donald Trump has succeeded in normalizing ideas Republican moderates would have rejected a decade ago. Federal actions that once provoked outrage are now barely noted by the press or the public. But there is a parallel danger from the far left. Self-proclaimed Democrat socialists are trying to mainstream an agenda that bears no resemblance to the Democrat Party. They are not Democrats. They are socialists. They do not represent the values of the party of FDR, JFK, Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, or Mario Cuomo. Their lineage is Bernie Sanders socialism, which Democrat voters rejected when they nominated Hillary Clinton in 2016 and Joe Biden in 2020. Obviously, I'm going to disagree with Cuomo here. The fix was in. Bernie was never going to be able to win that nomination. So to suggest that he failed is laughable when you look at the crowds that he was pulling in. But I'll continue. Socialism is not liberalism or progressivism. The Democrat Socialists of America, whose website features Zohran Mamdani, calls for nationalizing industries, ending private property ownership, and abolishing prison and police. Mamdani represents the most radical version of this movement. He has declared himself a socialist, labeled police racist and a threat to public safety, called for them to be defunded, disbanded, and disarmed, and defended the slogan, globalize the intifada, widely understood as a call for violence against Jews. He opposes jails and other carceral facilities and is a co-sponsor of a bill that decriminalizes most prostitution. These are not progressive positions. They are extremes, ones that would devastate New York's economy and imperil public safety. And they are held by a 33-year-old two-term assemblyman with one of the worst attendance records in the legislature this year, and who has only had 3 bills that he was the primary sponsor of enacted into law. His resume includes stints as a rapper and a housing counselor. He has never managed more than a handful of employees. New York is a city of 8 million people that endured terrorist attacks, pandemics, natural disasters, and economic crisis. Leadership here requires competence and experience. Mamdani has neither. This again, if you're just joining us, Andrew Cuomo. His positions shift as the wind blows because while he decries politics as usual, he is the ultimate politician, a coreless vessel who will say anything to get elected. He is an existential threat to New York City and the Democratic Party. My father would never forgive me if I didn't do everything I could to stop him. Democrats have always believed in responsible capitalism, private enterprise with guardrails, labor protections, consumer protections, and social safety nets. We believe in law and order, and the government's first duty is to protect citizens while advancing civil rights. We believe experience matters because failure in government is not an option for the most vulnerable amongst us. Socialists sees government as a stage for rhetoric and posturing. Their proposals are not realistic, and when tried, they fail. Look at Venezuela, Cuba, or Chicago. The greater danger is how quickly normalizing happens. Mainstream Democrats, fearing primary challenges from the left, endorse these candidates. The press accepts Mamdani's claims that he would only be judged by what is on his sanitized campaign website, ignoring years of extreme statements. The result is politics without accountability, eroding faith in parties and government itself. Far-left extremism is not a corrective to Trump's far right. It is a mirror. Trump and Mamdani share the same tactic: inflame and polarize, then declare moderation betrayal. Each feeds off the other. The cycle is dangerous. Anti-Semitic campus protests condoned by Mamdani gives Trump cover for assaults on academic freedom. Bans on wood-fired pizza ovens let him posture against clean energy. Calls to disband police and deconstruct jails would hand Trump the excuse to send federal troops into New York City, something he would do in an instant if Mamdani was mayor. This leaves the majority, Democrats, Republicans, and independents alike, alienated, disillusioned, and abandoned. And it collapses the center-left and the center-right, the only places where durable solutions are forged. That is the danger we face, and that is why we must stop normalizing extremism, whether it wears a red hat or adorns a red nose. If we want to preserve our democracy, true Democrats must draw a line. We must have the courage to say in this pivotal election, this is not who we are. As JFK warned, sometimes party loyalty demands too much. Because democracy does not fall when extremists shout. It falls when the majority stays silent. So there's Cuomo and his attack on his opponent. We got to take a break. Then we're going to wrap up our discussion on New York State and then get to the Democrat Party. We also have a couple updates just on Trump in general. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox. We will be right back.
Steuben County Office for the Aging will be hosting a public hearing on Thursday, September 18th at First Presbyterian Church in Bath. This hearing is to review the 2026 annual implementation plan for the Older Americans Act and the Steuben County Office for the Aging. This public hearing will take place at 9 a.m. on Thursday, September 18th in the Fellowship Hall of the First Presbyterian Church in Bath. Copies of the plan will be available at the Office for the Aging.
Want to read about ancient wonders? Go to your local library today.
But this isn't your father's library. It's the home of creativity. Release your inner audio engineer or face off a dragon in the D&D club. Make your clothing ideas come together with our sewing machine riddles. Create with the 3D printer or come to the library event nights to chat with those within your community. All with your library card. Go to getyourlibrarycard.com today.
Having a safe home is essential to many aspects of our lives. From a sense of community and safety, to physical and mental health, to economic security and independence. Most homes in our communities are not accessible and are not designed to accommodate the changes that come with age, including the risk of falling. The Older Adults Home Modification Program helps reduce the risk of falls, improves safety, and increases accessibility and independence. Through this program, Rebuilding Together works with older adults to provide no-cost preventative home repairs so our neighbors can safely age in place in the homes and communities they love. To learn more, visit rebuildingtogether.org/safeathome.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Mark writes in, not only was I paying for Big Bird, now I'm paying for Frankie Focus. What next? Cindy's cell phone collector? I like that. Probably. Well, they said it was $13.5 million, so it was more than I originally thought. $13.5 million to implement the cell phone ban in schools. Don't ask me how. I mean, I guess that money's going to those yonder bags they put the cell phones in, perhaps. $13.5 million, and she will not admit how much it cost for Frankie Focus. Yeah, just will not say. Another viewer writes in, New York City needs Silwa as its mayor. Yeah, that's an uphill battle, but he's not backing out. He actually has better number than Adam. So yeah, that'd be nice. That'd be a heck of an upset, wouldn't it? Comment from Jack. He said he had to look away from the picture of Frankie Focus. Hurt my eyes and mind to look at it. I wonder how much of the undisclosed total was used for the design team, costume manufacturing cost, and travel expenses for Frankie's crew, as well as hotel accommodations and promotional advertising material. Wow, New York State has its own Jar Jar Binks. Yes, Frankie Focus. Even supporters of the cell phone ban, even supporters of Hochul are calling it tone deaf. And we had said that on Friday. The age group wise isn't really who is quote unquote suffering the most because of this ban. And you're not going to have high school kids supporting Frankie Focus or be excited that Frankie Focus comes to school. It's very odd. The New York Post editorial board, and we're going to move away from New York State issues after this, but while local charities with insider pull openly steal millions from New York taxpayers, Attorney General Letitia James crusades with maximum malice against a tiny, defunct nonprofit in West Virginia, of all places. VDare, an obscure anti-immigration website, moved out of state long ago, but was founded decades ago in New York. That was enough to let James focus her office's efforts on looking into its apparent use of donor money to buy a headquarters in the mountain state town of Berkeley Springs that doubles as a home for its founder. For reasons known only to Tish James and God, she has pursued a vendetta against this obscure right-wing blog for years. The press release announcing her latest lawsuit against VDare lists 5 section chiefs, assistant attorney general, and staff as working on the case. Meanwhile, politically juiced service providers, truly active in New York, maintain fat government contracts worth hundreds of millions a year, even though their corruption and other insider profiting have been public, documented knowledge for years. The profiteers are solid members of the local Democrat elite. So when it comes to investigating, let alone prosecuting any of them, it's radio silence from the Attorney General. No press release, no lawsuit, nothing. The city's Department of Investigation details a long-standing pattern of self-dealing, excessive payments, nepotism, and other blatant irregularities and flat-out illegality in the city's multi-billion-dollar homeless industrial complex. SEBCO, a nonprofit shelter provider, hired a for-profit company to provide security services. Surprise! SEBCO owned the security company, chose it via a non-competitive process, and paid its own executives hundreds of thousands of dollars in salary. The husband of an SEBCO executive is affiliated with 4 of its for-profit subcontractors, providing a range of services from extermination to maintenance and cleaning. IKEA Network, another homeless shelter operation with a dodgy safety record, pays its top executive close to $1 million in yearly total compensation, a figure the charity says is reasonable, according to a consultant it hired. Before finally losing its city contracts, Core Services raked in hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars to shelter the homeless. It, too, hired its own for-profit subsidiaries to provide security, food, etc., paying the execs in fat 6-figure amounts. The DOA found similar scams going on across dozens of homeless service providers. The feds have prosecuted a few of the insiders and sent them to prison, while AG James devotes her resources to ideological lawfare. VDare may have misallocated some of its meager contributions, but it never got a dime from the taxpayer. All its donors are private individuals. New York social service nonprofits, meanwhile, are built entirely around leeching taxpayer money and enriching and or empowering their own leadership. James is a genius at chasing headlines as she prosecutes her ideological enemies, but an utter failure at policing the charities that rob New Yorkers blind. I thought that was important. Just an update on Tish James. So talking about the Democrat Party and some of the struggles that they are having, we're going to talk about that when we come back. Even someone on the left writing redistricting isn't the Democrats' problem, and that's from the Liberal Patriot. We're going to talk about that. A couple of things here about the Trump administration in general. We got a lot We got a lot going on. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Your tap water is delicious.
I know, right? It's this Culligan Smart drinking water system.
What do you think is going on in there?
I'm smelling a touch of chlorine.
Yeah, I'm detecting some PFAS.
I'm also getting notes of lead.
Perfection.
Sending it up.
Here we go.
Certified to reduce more than 70 contaminants. It's like having your own team of water experts. See the smart difference at Culligan.com.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
In a game of few words. Urkel, glasses. Nerd. It pays to know your nerds. If you guys didn't get nerd with me sitting up here on this show, 25 words or less.
Weeknights at 5 and 5:30 on Big Fox.
The Bix website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather, up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
If you have one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. A couple of viewer comments. How is a liar like James able to prosecute anyone, being that she herself is a criminal, alleged? Why is she still out of jail? I've not heard anything more about that investigation. It's going to take a while. I don't know how long, but I have not heard anything more. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. You're spot on about Hochul not being ready for prime time. Thank you. The Frankie Focus nonsense is another perfect example. However, she might possibly be ready to be the activity director at a daycare. I'm in disbelief that she holds a position that she does. Yeah, if it weren't for Cuomo doing what he did, she would never have been a governor. She would have never reached that level. I mean, he really picked her. You pick someone as your lieutenant governor that you don't want to be too powerful, not too popular, that would stand a chance of taking your job away from you. So that's who Cuomo picked, and that's what we see on a day-to-day basis. Yes, she is not ready for prime time. We see it in her speeches. We see it in her presentations, like with Frankie Focus, just not there. Now, Democrats in Congress know they're in a political hole, but it looks like they're about to dig deeper by insisting on shutting down the federal government. The Republicans, with narrow House and Senate majorities, want to pass a stopgap measure to keep the government funded and running after September the 30th. Yet Democrats are poised to block the bill because their base voters are demanding that they, quote, do something, no matter how stupid the gesture. Republicans made that mistake many times in past shutdowns, as their base demanded symbolic action no matter the price. Now, President Trump's recent pocket rescission unilaterally canceled $5 billion in foreign aid funding, carefully timed to give Congress no chance to override him, has only redoubled Democrats' fury at their impotence to block his agenda, prompting fresh threats to shut it all down. Yeah, they are going to shut it down. They're going to hope the media, and the media will try to cover for them and blame it on Republicans. But grassroots activists and fat cat donors alike went ballistic back in March, if you recall, when Chuck Schumer acted responsibly by allowing a floor vote on a previous stopgap funding bill, because a shutdown would mainly hurt people the Democrats claim to care about, and because gumming up the works would infuriate most voters, but wouldn't provide the leverage to win the spending increases and tax hikes the Democrats want. The only thing that's really changed now is that the midterm elections are coming closer, including primaries where the left could take out incumbent Democrats if they seem like a bunch of do-nothings. and so increase the chances of GOP pickups in close races. Donors have been stingy so far, too, even though Schumer and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries have done great work recruiting candidates like ex-Governor Roy Cooper in North Carolina and Scranton Mayor Paige Gebhardt-Cognetti for very winnable Senate and House races. So Schumer and Jeffries, who was already talking tough during the March standoff, may decide they're better off doing the wrong thing. For now, Democrats are seeing if the GOP will bend, maybe at the behest of the White House, as they demand Republicans roll back changes they made to slow Medicaid outlays in the Big Beautiful Bill Act. The party's been seen as forcing a shutdown generally gets the lion's share of blame. And Democrats can no longer rely on the media's ability to snow voters into thinking it's always the Republicans' fault. Ironically, a shutdown makes little sense even ideologically for Democrats. They're the party of more government. Every day it's even partly shut down is a loss, especially when Trump's team deciding exactly what must close. Since Republicans can just force vote after vote to reopen on their terms until Democrats feel compelled to give in, the strategy has near zero chance of winning the left anything of substance. Most Americans would see them as having acted like children, once again virtue signaling to appease the loudmouths instead of looking out for the best interests of the country. If Democrats do pull the trigger anyway, it'll be one more damning sign that the party's hard left is still calling all the shots, so that even a vote for a moderate Democrat is only serving the radicals' agenda. Now, at the Liberal Patriot, he's obviously, hence the name, he is a liberal. He says redistricting isn't the Democrats' party. Somewhat implausibly, Democrats claim they will match Republican redistricting moves, as in Texas, with moves of their own that will cancel them out. But Democrats just have fewer places than the GOP to pull off these maneuvers, and even where they are in control of state government, are more likely to face institutional obstacles like nonpartisan commissions specifically designed to prevent the gerrymandering. Therefore, the net results of those moves and countermoves is likely to favor the GOP. How badly could all this hurt the Democrats in 2026? In all likelihood, not very. As Nate Cohen has pointed out, other factors that make the midterm environment favorable to the Democrats will likely swamp the effects of any pro-GOP redistricting. As he notes, even with the Texas redistricting, the 2026 midterm map will still be less pro-GOP than the 2018 map, and we know what happened then. So does that mean Democrats shouldn't worry at all about redistricting shenanigans? No, but it does mean they shouldn't hit the panic button about it. Their problem lies far deeper than that and go way beyond the marginal House seats in the 2026 election. Instead, the garment rending about the GOP's redistricting efforts misses the harm done to Democrats by the continuing concentration of their partisans in ever less competitive districts under the press of both redistricting and population sorting. So does that mean Democrats, it says in the 21st century, the number of Democrat-held districts that are considered competitive has declined steadily to only about a quarter of the seats. The Democrats' median districts now has a double-digit partisan lead of 13D, meaning it's 13 points more Democratic than the nation as a whole. This means that Democratic congressional representatives are under less and less pressure to deviate from party orthodoxy and take account of sentiment outside of their highly partisan supporters. So what this all boils down to, I know I'm running late here, but finally, consider the Democrats' energy and climate policy commitments, which define their approach to economic policy under the Biden administration. Trump has taken a meat axe to the Democrats' green agenda, putting the renewable energy and electric vehicle subsidies from the Inflation Reduction Act through a flurry of executive orders and other actions, firmly committing the U.S. to using its massive endowment of fossil fuels to achieve energy dominance. This is fully in tune with public opinion, but outrage in Democrat ranks has prevented Democratic politicians from recalibrating their approach and admitting some of this needs to happen. These politicians have strayed far from all of the above policies of the Obama years, which were more popular, but imprisoned as they are by their ever more fervent, ever more concentrated partisans that can't find their way back. This is the fundamental problem then, not GOP redistricting undermining Democrat House seats, because structural trends, including but not limited to ongoing redistricting, have made Democrat politicians ever more insulated from the median voter. The more radical forces in the party now hold the whip hand. They are determined to prevent the Democrats from pursuing an effective reform course that could truly isolate Trump. And by and large, they are succeeding. Rex Smith writes 7 words for the resistance, because keep in mind, this is what they are. This is what they're considering themselves, a resistance. That's why they're going to allow for government shutdown. Like learning to discern a wine's flavor, we must understand how we describe our object in order to confront Donald Trump's authoritarian rule. Okay. This piece gets in a little bit too much into the weeds about the wine and all that. It strikes me as a kind of exercise that those of us who count ourselves among the Trump resistance ought to undertake in charting our course forward. Ever since just after the 2024 election, there's been a gnashing of teeth over the seeming inability of Democrat leaders to fight the outrages of the 47th president. In the face of nothing less than an assault on our democracy and a string of policy decisions that are weakening America's security, damaging its economy, and hurting its most vulnerable citizens, why isn't there a clear alternative agenda being aggressively promoted right now that can win the allegiance of voters who might be inclined to try to stop Trump? We've heard the advice that Democrats should moderate their words they use so their priorities seem aimed more towards folks in a feedlot or a factory than a faculty lounge. Don't warn of oligarchs. Instead, denounce powerful rich people. If you have a plan to combat drug addiction, call it that, but don't couch it as a strategy to reduce substance abuse disorder. Nobody calls themselves Latinx, and people who are poor don't get closer to escaping that plight if they're called economically disadvantaged. Speak plainly and carry a big campaign kitty. So there you are. So let's consider and dwell upon these 7 words: perseverance, discernment, energy, agility, compassion, optimism, bravery. We might think of them as the 7 terms of the resistance. As we absorb their meaning, imagine what we can do to realize each objective. We can be better empowered to fill the necessary role of concerned citizen in the long months that stretch ahead of us. Like the students of wine who study the adjectives that denote flavor and aroma, who come to know what a wine is like, that display spicy notes of mushroom, vanilla, and clove, we need to become knowledgeable about what these 7 words can mean if we are going to become experts in resisting the authoritarianism that has now come to America. That's not to say that a nice dash of gin won't help, but it is in fighting under the banner that we will be truly rewarded. There you go. All right. And Chuck Schumer refusing to give a comment in a piece about the battle for Congress. Working class Democrats try a hard scrabble pitch. A new crop of candidates has turned away from the aspirational American dream message of campaigns and is leaning into how difficult life can be for working people, including them. Interesting. And they go through and name some of these people that are kind of running the Democrat Party at the grassroots level, calling it a populist movement. Gone is the aspirational American dream narrative that has long been a staple of political campaigns, and these working class candidates bear little resemblance to the kind of people Democrats have turned to in recent years to win elections, when they've recruited educated professionals with sterling pedigrees, including prestigious national security credentials. Anyway, for whatever reason, Chuck Schumer refusing to talk about the working class Democrat. Interesting. Unlike him, too, to not have a comment. I feel like Chuck Schumer and the DSCC like to lose elections rather than win elections, he said Sage, referring to the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee. They're comfortable where they're at. They want to continue the status quo. It's an unwillingness to see the writing on the wall. Mr. Schumer declined to comment for this article, but he has made it clear that finding candidates who can win general elections remains his North Star, regardless of their background. He is focused this year on recruiting candidates who he trusts know how to win statewide races, including at least one with working-class bona fides, former Senator Sherrod Brown of Ohio, who was defeated last year and has announced he will attempt a comeback by running in a special election for the seat formerly held by J.D. Vance. It is also still early in the cycle for the Democrat campaign arm to make any official endorsements. On that note, we got to take a short break. Stay with us. We will be right back after this.
Steuben County Office for the Aging will be hosting a public hearing on Thursday, September 18th at First Presbyterian Church in Bath. This hearing is to review the 2026 annual implementation plan for the Older Americans Act and the Steuben County Office for the Aging. This public hearing will take place at 9 a.m. on Thursday, September 18th in the Fellowship Hall of the First Presbyterian Church in Bath. Copies of the plan will be available at the Office for the Aging. Want to read about ancient wonders? Go to your local library today. But this isn't your father's library. It's the home of creativity. Release your inner audio engineer or face off a dragon in the D&D club. Make your clothing ideas come together with our sewing machine riddles. Create with the 3D printer or come to the library event nights to chat with those within your community. All with your library card. Go to getyourlibrarycard.com today.
Big Fox 10 p.m. News is the first primetime local news for the Twin Tiers. Our reporters, Haley and Dante, scour the southern tier to bring you up-to-date news regarding local businesses, economics, and how national decisions impact our area. If you're not near a TV, don't worry. You can also catch our 10 p.m. news live on WYDCTV.com/livestream. Don't miss Big Fox 10 p.m. news on WYDC, on TV, or our website.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. Rick writes in. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Rick. Department of War, really? That's what too many double quarter pounders with cheeseburgers will do to you. Ha ha, too tough, Trump. Job numbers look great again last month. Attaboy, Donnie. Great to see the Three Stooges together in China for the big parade. And the leadership of India and Iran. Let me ask a question. Was Xi's military parade more impressive than Trump's? Maybe a wee bit. Have an awesome week, you all. Thank you, Rick. Gavin Newsom, who somehow has become, even though the disaster with the wildfires and the riots, he has become, I think, the leader of the Democrat Party for the 2026 presidential race. He ripped into Trump, saying our economy is in a downward spiral, but don't worry, the GOP are spending their time cheersing Diet Cokes at a new exclusive club. Newsom retweeted House Speaker Mike Johnson's post from the event where he wrote, the grand opening of the new Rose Garden Club at the White House last night was epic. Thanks to Donald Trump for his hospitality. And that is the new line from the media. Trump is turning the White House into Mar-a-Lago land, paving over the Rose Garden and gaudily embellishing the Oval Office made the U.S. president look desperate. Okay? The White House Rose Garden, just the name alone, evokes elegance, pageantry, delicate glamour, formidable power. Commissioned by John F. Kennedy in 1961 under the guidance of his uber-chic wife, Jackie, and her good friend, Bunny Mellon, the garden has provided the backdrop for many an iconic image. JFK Jr. as a toddler in a powder blue suit in 63, standing barely taller than the flowers. Hey, we're going to go through all this. So that is the new criticism. Speaking of the Democrat Party, though, the Maryland Democrat, Wes Moore, who's been on kind of that short list of potential 2028 candidates, Maryland Governor Wes Moore, Democrat, shocked Meet the Press host Kristen Welker, announcing whether he intends to run for president. Speculation has swirled that Moore would run for president, and the Maryland governor is up for re-election in 2026. When asked if Moore intends to serve a full term if re-elected, he said yes. When Welker pressed him if he would be running for president, Moore ruled out a presidential run. Yes, I'm going to be serving a full term. I'm excited about re-election. I'm excited about what I'm going to be able to do for the people of Maryland. So do you rule out a run for president, Governor? Yeah, I'm not running for president, Moore said. Wow. There you go. All right, we got to take a break and then wrap up today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Enjoy a taste of Finger Lakes at Hector Hideaway.
Dine inside or out on the deck for gorgeous lake views and pair your meal with a local wine, beer, or beverage. Visit us today at Hector Hideaway.
This isn't your library. Create with the 3D printer. Release your inner audio engineer or sewing machine riddles, all with your library card. Go to getyourlibrarycard.com today. You're what Big Fox, WYDC TV, Elmira Corning.
Fox 10 p.m. News is the first primetime local news for the Twin Tiers. Our reporters, Haley and Dante, scour the southern tier to bring you up-to-date news regarding local businesses, economics, and how national decisions impact our area. If you're not near a TV, don't worry. You can also catch our 10 p.m. news live on WYDCTV.com/livestream. Don't miss Big Fox 10 p.m. news on WYDC, on TV, or our website.
If you have won regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. A couple of quick comments as we wrap up today's edition. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. I'd seriously like to ask Rick if he wants what's best for the United States and all that it implies. Does he love this republic or does he hate Trump more? Comment from a different viewer. Remind Rick that it was called the War Department from 1789 to 1947. Thank you very much. This was mentioned at the beginning of the show. I didn't think we'd have time to get to it, but RFK Jr.'s family members say he is a threat to Americans' health and have called for his resignation. Now, remember, they came out and endorsed Biden, too, way back during the election, so this should come as no surprise. Kennedy's sister, Carrie Kennedy, and his nephew, Joseph P. Kennedy III, issued scathing statements Friday calling for him to resign as head of the Health and Human Services Department. The calls from the prominent Democrat family came a day after Kennedy had to defend his recent efforts to pull back COVID-19 vaccine recommendations and fire high-level officials at the Center for Disease Control at a 3-hour Senate hearing. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is a threat to the health and well-being of every American, said Joseph P. Kennedy III. None of us will be spared the pain he's inflicting. His aunt echoed those claims, saying medical decisions belong in the hands of trained and licensed professionals, not incompetent and misguided leadership. Bill Maher over the weekend saying that nutty RFK Jr. needs to leave. I personally find this very disappointing because I am the person who is sympathetic to what Kennedy was trying to do. I said, finally, we have a guy in there who cares about this stuff, but he's also just nutty. He's just too nutty. He just does not listen. I mean, he's just is, and nothing ever, I don't know what that word is, nothing ever stops in the middle. Now, Trump signaling that he still supports Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Well, he's a different kind of guy, Trump said. He's got a lot of good ideas, but he's got a lot of ideas. You know, normally they don't have any ideas, and that's why we have problems with autism and so many other things, because we're coming up with answers for autism. You watch. We're coming up with the answers for other things that normal people, regular people, easy to get along with people wouldn't be able to do. He's got a lot of ideas, and so do I, and we're going to clean it up. Miranda Devine, do I have time on this? Probably not. Of all Donald Trump's cabinet picks, it's Robert F. Kennedy Jr. who attracts the most vitriol, which is saying something. You could see just how much the Health and Human Services Secretary is despised last week at a Senate committee hearing when Democrats after Democrats abused him with slurs like charlatan and demanded he resign. There is an orchestrated campaign to force him out that includes the overplayed political ploy of an open letter from 9 former CDC leaders and another letter from 1,000 current and former HHS employees calling on him to resign. But why would he resign? He's only just getting started on Trump's Make America Healthy Again agenda, which is popular with Americans of all stripe, especially Republicans, 73% of whom rated it favorably in the latest Insider Advantage poll. So it just, and she goes through to give the history. He should blame woeful leaders like Joe Biden for allowing millions of unvetted, unvaccinated people and sending them all over the country. Measles is the least of it. All right, that does it for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you to everybody who reached out, all those great comments, all those great waves. I do appreciate it. Join us every weekday morning starting at 6 a.m. for Frankly Speaking. It's hard to believe how quickly this program goes, even on a Monday, but leading off with the excitement of football. Maybe some of you stayed up too late. A little chilly out there this morning. So keep that on mind in your way into school, your way into work. And we will see you tomorrow morning, bright and early, with Frankly Speaking. Only on WYDC TV. Big Fox. I look forward to it already.
Tire World of Corning is your back-to-school tune-up authority. family service you can trust. Save big on all brand name tires, suspensions, oil changes, inspections, tune-ups, and exhaust. We give you peace of mind this school season. Your car, your kid's car, your off-to-college car. We have all kinds of tires for all kinds of vehicles. We love tires. We love maintaining your vehicles.
I would highly recommend them.
We came in, 5 minutes, we're in and out.
Get the job done right the first time.
Tire World of Corning, family service you can trust.
You lather, rinse, moisturize, repeat, and repeat. But it never feels like enough. It's not your products. It's your water. Hard water leaves a mineral residue that clogs pores and dries out hair. Culligan water softeners remove damaging minerals, revitalizing brittle hair and dry skin. Upgrade your shower and skincare routine with Culligan, water you love.